thing you got to keep in mind, and this is my last statement, so these people can run.
Thank
Is
you.
black people, we like you as much as you jump on the black conservatives, it's easy to knock them down for the majority of black people because you can just throw the coon card at them, and that's gonna move most black people. Versus you look at somebody like Courtney that's gonna sell the idea, let's all come along under the gynocracy. Black people and black men are a lot more wooed by that, so that's a bigger threat level. See, those guys are never gonna grow to a certain extent because black people are always going to have resistance to that. They have much less resistance to the female bullshit.
They're there to entertain, and plus most black males, most black men are actually brought up in the gynocracy.
Yeah, so that's why I
We're
wanted to explain
socialized.
why
So
I do let the conservatives, proverbially a little bit off the. You think I let them off the
okay,
hook, but
all right,
yeah.
all
So
right, yeah.
anyway,
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 we got Truth and we got Michael. Michael, you said you wanted to defend something that you were saying.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. I don't have a microphone, so I'm speaking to my computer. All right.
Well, do the best you can.
Well, brother DC, what he was talking about is correct. I do agree with you, brother BGS, in regard to the fact that white supremacy does exist. But what I was explaining to you earlier, and what I was trying to get people to understand is, when you made that statement in one of your videos, is water wet to a fish? It's just when you live in an atmosphere where they try and cover it up, or they
They
smooth them
don't cut.
off.
They don't. Let me ask you, Michael. Let me ask you a goddamn question, man. You see this shit on? How often do you see black men and
I
black
see it all
people?
the time.
I'm
not arguing the fact
hold
that it
on,
you
exists.
tried to slide it in.
hold on. Okay, you trying to slide that shit in? You cannot live in black America and not see that, man. It's impossible. We talking about not notice it.
It's not about seeing it. What it's about is accepting it, and like they say, the
They're
hope of
not.
trying to
They're
wash it
they're,
away.
they're
That's what it
lying
is.
about it. How can you
You
not
know
see
this.
it?
You and
How
I
can,
both know this. We know
no,
this.
no, no, no. They see it. That's a lie. They see it. Because like they were saying, if they really believe that white supremacy did not exist and racism doesn't exist, they have their ass where all the money is on the white side. Why are they over here?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You would be
Why are they over?
surprised.
No
You would be
bullshit.
surprised the
I've been
amount of
over there.
black.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'd be
Okay.
surprised, I was one of the original people to get bust in the 1960s, man. I've been dealing with white people since I was in freaking fourth grade. Okay.
No, BGS, what you experienced was not busing. What you experienced is basically relocation because your people wasn't educated enough and economically enough to
Oh,
get
this
you in
nigga
a better
actually
spot.
believes
Listen to
that. Oh my
Yeah, that's
God,
bullshit.
nigga,
But
you really walked into that shit?
You said what?
so
You
in,
said
I
so
will cold break
so
you.
in other
I
words,
love it.
in a fish
I
that's
love it.
surrounded in a
Bring 'em up,
medium, okay.
man.
So say we
Bring 'em out.
use, because you talk to a STEM major, right? So
I want to
I
hear it.
deal into this esoteric bullshit, right? Say you are in a fish, you surrounded in a medium that you don't notice, right? Okay, so where there's nothing but water, so
Right.
there's no differentiation. Okay, I could accept that. Do black Americans live in that kind of medium?
No,
They
that's
don't.
correct. But they want to live in a fantasy
It
that
doesn't
doesn't
matter
exist, and that's what I was
what
pointing
they
out.
want to live in. But
It's
to your
reality. Doesn't matter, bro.
to your argument that you're trying to argue is that they live in a medium where they cannot notice it because everything is the same. Okay, like a fish. A fish is in water, right? That's the medium that it lives in, right? It doesn't know the
Correct.
difference.
But
Okay,
they can't live outside of it though.
they sure can't. As I was told you, when
Their
they
ass
come
would
to the
die.
when they come to the surface, they notice it real quick the
Yeah,
difference between
absolutely.
water and air. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the
When they
argument, so the argument is really
when
When
you're
their
when
eyes
you're
pop out.
when you're fit when you have you ever had fish,
Yes.
Michael? Okay,
Yes.
so when you drop that feed, their pellets on top of their feed, the flakes on top of the water, and they come up,
Mhm.
they get it. They notice the
That's
difference
correct.
between water and air. Okay, they do.
so the argument is black people can't see racism. They're colorblind to racism.
And
Some black people.
what he's
We
saying is what.
can. A lot of us choose not to. A
No,
lot of us choose not to. They
that's
want to live in
How
a
do you choose
But
not to
that's
see something?
great.
that's not the
Great.
same.
That's still a choice. That's
Not
a
the-
choice.
That's
I
a
choose.
self-imposed
It's not
delusion.
bad. There's a
You
choice.
choose not to
I
see it.
Hold
What
on,
are you
hold on.
saying?
I don't. Somebody's echoing.
I choose to
That's
believe
true.
height doesn't matter.
Yes.
So, so
Are you funny?
other word, now walk yourself through your own logic, right? Walk yourself through all the logic.
It doesn't matter.
Compare racism to water and the fish. Compare the two. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I have to go back to
No
the,
bullshit. No bullshit. You don't have to sit down. Compare the two. What's the difference between a fish that doesn't know air, okay, compared to a black person? Now compare the two.
well, we've been living racism since the 16th century.
So you
So
know,
it's
so
kind
basically,
of,
so you know what racism is. To say that you don't think it exists is bullshit.
I
He's
know what
using
it is.
he's
But
using
hold
the
on,
no
hold on, like
BTS.
you
One
He's
time, one
using the
time.
build up tolerance argument. He's using black people have
That,
tolerance for
that is
racism.
not a build up tolerance argument.
hold on a second. Hold on a second. How you gonna sit up here and denounce it like it don't exist, but you know the period in which it started?
I never said
Accurately
racism
too.
didn't exist. Hold on, I never said racism didn't exist. I made a comparison of what is reality and what people want
So
to
basically,
believe
you
is
playing a
reality.
neo argument. I choose
He,
to.
he's not playing a
I
neo
don't
argument.
choose to I don't
At the
choose to
end,
be anything. If I'm a realist, the glass is not half full, is not half empty.
You
The
choose
they
shit
not to
got water
acknowledge
and if
racism.
you're thirsty,
they
drink.
do not
What does
okay.
red pill stand for? What does the
The
red
only
pill stand for?
the only people there's a very few exceptions, right? So you
Jesus
take
Christ, man.
you take a black kid that lives in a neighborhood where he's surrounded by white people, okay?
Mhm.
Surrounded by white people, and he's the only black person, and nobody ever brings it up that he's black, right? Okay,
Mhm.
he would be the fish in water
Okay,
because
I see your point.
he's never experienced racism, don't know what it is, no matter what his color is, okay? Because
I see your
all
point.
he knows is that there's no difference between him and white people, right? According
Mhm.
to the experience that he has, right? That would be one, right? But what happens when he grows up and gets out of the school system?
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Reality. You're
Because
right.
people,
Reality.
because
So you
people,
so,
You're right. You're right
Mr.
about that.
Officer, what's happening?
people make that argument with the I've heard people try to make that the argument you're making in the military too,
the military people don't give
Oh,
that argument.
yeah, come
well, no,
on,
I'm not
bro.
talking about all of them, but I've heard, and shout out to Fantastic, but I've heard
I
Fantastic
knew
make that
that's what you was
argument.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've heard, and he's not the only one I've heard make that argument.
Fantastic is blowing smoke up your goddamn ass.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's valid because I've
Okay,
argued
okay.
with him on it, but
Well,
I've heard
you know what, man, you know what,
Oh man.
because
where
I
I've
know enough
worked.
people in the
Hold on a
military
second.
that's not true.
Where I have worked in DC, you know, DC probably knows probably more about my background than 99% of people on YouTube, right? Where I worked with a lot of retired military people, right?
Yep. Me too.
Lots of them, thousands
Mhm.
of them, right? Thousands of them.
And they'll
Well,
never say that white
and
supremacy
none of them
don't
would ever
exist.
tell you that
They
racism
would
does
not
not
tell
exist
you
in the
I,
military,
I get, but
including my brother who's a retired sergeant, a retired cop
I
in the
got you,
army.
but I've heard the Allen West type of
I
dude.
don't care what they
Alan
say.
West.
They
I don't,
pull that shit. I'm
I
not
don't care.
saying it's
I,
true. I'm
I
just
don't care.
saying it's
I don't.
said.
I don't care. Do you believe them?
No, and I tell them that.
Well, thank you. It doesn't matter what they
Yeah,
say.
I'm trying to help Michael out
I,
because you're beating him with the belt right now,
okay,
and
all right.
You beat me with the belt.
It,
Edward, let me explain to you what's happening.
the thing is, Michael's taking my title about water is wet, right? But I'm referring to human beings, right? He's bringing up this bullshit argument about, but goddamn, the
Analogy.
fish don't,
I
the
know,
analogy,
I
which is
know.
bullshit, Michael. It's bullshit
Michael is
because
getting flogged right now.
what the water is wet is a colloquialism, right? In other words,
Hmm.
stating the obvious. That's why I put it there. Okay,
I
had
know
nothing to
this.
do. If you want if you want to argue existential Gnosticism, we can. Okay, which you actually inadequate doing right now.
Now the
Okay,
argument is it exists, but it's not systematic. That's what like
Well, let,
now
You
we're
know,
moving the
let
somebody asked a
goalpost.
minute ago about the red pill, and these people want to be red pill when it comes to women, but they don't want to be red pill about the economic structure, about
I
Yeah,
don't
race, about nothing
understand.
else.
yeah.
one time.
You
And,
can't be
and,
half
and,
pregnant. You
and
can't be
super,
half pregnant, and you can't be half red pill.
super. You got to say you want to talk because your mic is so scraggly.
You can't be
Everybody
half
can't talk while
pregnant.
you
You
talk.
can't be half red pill.
Yeah, but go ahead, Trey.
So,
True
you know,
people.
you kind of know that they're bullshitting about
You
it,
hear me?
knowing about racism. Because if you don't know about racism, the first thing you would say is, tell me about racism. Like, I've never seen racism before. What? Are you telling me there's Tell me about, show me. I've never seen it before.
Shocked.
You're right. You'd be shocked, but they never do that, right? They never do that. So, you know, I look at this and to me, I'm seeing there's different types of racism, flat earth deniers. That was a hilarious line, BGS.
That's why I put it in there.
That was genius. Props to you. That was
Yeah,
funny.
that was good. That was a good one. Yeah, that's good.
And so I looked like, so part of it, I think there's like one common theme with all of them. And I really haven't necessarily drilled down on it per se, but I'm seeing this thread of Christianity throughout all of it. And, you know, like I said, racism is just, it's sin. It's sin. It's not really racism. We all sin. And it's, you know, if we all just got right with God, you know, we wouldn't have these problems. So it's not really racism.
What church are they going to?
I don't know. I don't know, but
Hipster white Jesus church. Shout out to Black Uru.
That's what it is, right?
Okay.
And so
all right. Okay. So it's sin. Okay.
And then there's
what's the old quote that preachers always use, especially in the black church? We've all sinned and fallen short of what?
The glory.
The glory of God. All right. So anyway, continue.
So then you have some types that you know may not be Christian, probably are. They're in a meritocracy. They go and I think for them they say I don't see racism, and it's more of maybe a psychological defense mechanism. They go, I don't, you know, yeah, right. They might even, if you get them one-on-one and talk to them, they'll say, yeah, racism exists. But, you know, I don't like to admit it, though, because, you know,
I don't like to admit it. I don't want to admit it in public.
Yeah, I don't want to admit it in public. I got a single-minded focus. Like, you know, I don't want to get distracted. But they know. And then, you know, I think that, you know, that's kind of the same with capitalists. Yet you'll see like a guy like Michael Jordan. He's not going to go public and talk about racism per se. But he's going. But he's so he ain't going to talk about a lot of things.
Even though his biggest factory is in a communist country, but that's beside the point.
But have you read his book, his biography?
I haven't.
Is it worth reading?
It's all about racism. No, but I'm saying he talks about his childhood. He talks about how race influenced him and how he was affected by race, how it affected his pops, his family. See, that's that. I mean, okay. I'm you know what? I'm a veer out to the rim, man. I can't do.
Hold on, let me finish, Joe. Let me give you out. I got one more. I got one more kind of archetype. These flat earth deniers, and that's these conservatives, the type that would follow Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens, and they kind of identify their black identity through the lens of white conservatives. There's something to that. I don't get it exactly, but it's quite obvious. I met a guy who actually was a big fan of real funny. He was a younger black dude in his early 20s, a big fan of Ben Shapiro's. He went to the White House, you know, when Trump was in office with that black conservative group. And I guess they had, you know, people were flying blacks from around the country into the White House to celebrate Trump. And he really loves some Ben Shapiro. And, you know, I don't understand where that comes from, but I think that's just a common element. You know, you see a lot, and he was a conservative Christian himself and a conservative. So I think, you know, those are pretty much the four types of racism flat earth deniers that I see.
Ben Shapiro.
I agree.
Hey, so did he just say flat earth denier?
Yeah, that's what I called him. Yeah, flat earthers. That's what I call. In other words, you deny that around earth.
No, he said flat earth deniers.
In other words, we use flat earth deniers. In other words, they believe in a flat earth. They deny that there's a round earth, so we call them flat earth deniers. That's
I'm saying like racism flat earth deniers.
Yeah. I actually compared the two. If you actually listen to the video, I actually compared the two. Go ahead, DC.
No, I'm good. Go ahead, Meech.
All right, so there's something real. There's something real simple here as far as the dude.
Can I get out afterwards?
You can't go after me. Go ahead, Meech.
Okay. The guy that said that they were ignoring racism. Let's be very clear about something. You can't ignore something. You can't intentionally ignore something unless you know it exists, right? Say that. So they know that racism exists. That's the reason that they work so hard not to speak about it. What they want to bury their head in the sand, but then on the other side, you got people that don't want the same thing about it because they know what side their bread is buttered on. So nobody's you can't sit over here and act like you don't know something exists. You just happen to dodge it all the time, but then you pretend like you don't know it's there. Oh, they're dodging around it. They know full well better, and you gotta quit letting people off the hook like that. If they don't care about racism, if they don't want to fight against it, that's fine. But don't lie and say you don't know it exists.